So continuing, I said the Negro area, or we could say Negro land, or the Negro area proper, and the Guinea area that was located on the coast. Now, we go here. Excuse me. And we have another phenotype known as the Genesid, as well as transitional between Sudanid and Genesid. We click on this here. And there are different variations. Probably most important, perhaps being what they refer to as Guineo-Cameroonian. And on this particular website, they have some technical terminology. Won't really go into. Okay, so closing this out again. You can visit some of the variations. Example of phenotype found prominently in Senegal. Now this is from a Russian let's go straight to it. This is another group. This is, I guess, this is a stereotypical Igbo appearance. Here in this Russian website, they refer to this particular phenotype as Eborid. So some of the enslaved were Igbo. That can cause confusion when it comes to being mulatto or biracial. Igbos were a African people, and they were considered as being Negroes, yet noted for their lighter complexions. Now, closing this out, and this, and this. And then there's also nilotic or nilotic, which are found in this area of Africa. You really didn't have nilotics being brought to America. And then there is Ethiopic. Okay, so now Ethiopians historically were not considered as being Negro. So this is why when people from places like Eritrea, Ethiopia, or Somalia come to America, they are not always accepting of the notion of being black. Because if we go back again, more Ethiopians. North Ethiopia. Not all of these pictures represent Ethiopians. Obviously, this is not an example of an Ethiopian person. But going back, we'll just, maybe it's not letting us go all the way back. Okay, so now we come to the census. How race is defined. It says white, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. Black or African American, a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. So that means any of the groups historically falling under Negro or Negroid. American Indian or Alaska Native, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North and South America, including Central America, and who maintains tribal affiliation or community attachment. Asian, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, Southeast Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, including, for example, Cambodia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan, the Philippine Islands, Thailand, and Vietnam. Now, with the exception of the people of Pakistan and the Indian subcontinent, or most of the Indian subcontinent, most of these people were historically referred to as being Mongolian. And then we have Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, or other Pacific Islands. And that includes some people who may be classified as black, such as Melanesians, but who are distinct from Africans. Okay, so you saw again, for example, Nilotic, referred to in literature as we see here, Nilotic Negro. Let me close this out. Go into West Ethiopic. West Ethiopics are basically the Fula or Fulani people. They were at times not classified as being Negroes. And then you have Moorish. Moorish people, people of Mauritania, or they were considered as being a Hamitic people. And then you have the Tuareg, also considered Hamitic. Back to West Ethiopia, and let's see if I can find it. Okay, so Berberic. Berberics or Amazigh are the pre-Arab population of North Africa. When it says what defines white, Berbers were included as amongst whites, but yet Berbers were also classified as being Hamites, and so they were classified as being Hamites and classified as being white. Another North African phenotype. This is the area you find that particular phenotype. And another term for people classified as white, yet having dark hair and dark eyes, and what white people would describe as a somewhat swarthy complexion. This is what they mean by swarthy, where they were also known as the Melanocroid people, which meant black and light, as in black hair, dark eyes, but yet light skin. And then all of this falls under the Mediterranean or Mediterranean. group, and this is where you would find this whole area here, all of this area. It includes people of Spain and Portugal and Greece. Orientalid. This is your basic Arabian phenotype, but it has since spread from there, other places. So, for example, DJ Khaled would fall under Orientalid. Orientalid means at one time Oriental did not always mean simply Mongolian. It meant people living to the east of Europe. And then we have Armenoid, which includes people from Armenia, some of these I'm only showing more so because I'm trying to get to something else, but this is a phenotype you would find in, let me see what I just say would be found in the Balkans and Eastern Europe. Okay, more closer to home as a group that Black Americans descend from as far as the European component. An example would be Nordic. This is your stereotypical white group. And it's, in particular, we have Anglo-Saxon. Because of America being a British colony, we would expect to see Anglo-Saxon admixture. And then there's also what is referred to as North Atlantic. This is basically a group with darker hair and lighter eyes. Okay, so going into the 1890 census, at one time, well, during the 1890 census, those who went around and collected data on race, because it wasn't like a mail-in where you just put in whatever you wanted, they were to write white, black, mulatto, quadroon, octoroon, Chinese, Japanese, or Indian as a Native American, according to the color or race of the person enumerated. Be particularly careful to distinguish between blacks, mulattoes, quadroons, and octoroons. The word black should be used to describe those persons who have 3/4 or more black blood. Mulatto, those who have from 3/8 to 5/8 black blood. Quadroon, those who have 1/4 black blood. And octoroon, those persons who have 1/8 or any trace of black blood. So many people who would be considered black today in the 1890s were not considered black, interestingly enough. So now we now get into modern genetics. If we substitute uh, genetic percentages for blood, so this woman is 66% European. It's a woman because let me just show. Yep, it's a woman. She is 66% European and 31% Sub-Saharan African. So according to the 1790 census, she would not be considered black. Okay, closing this out, going here. It's the same. It's be the same thing. Same. Let's see. Or is this different? Okay, so now we get into the issue of the one drop rule. This is someone who was obviously of both African and European descent. In America, we ended up with something called the one drop rule. So in the 1930 census, it says there were specific instructions for reporting race. A person of mixed white and Negro blood was to be returned as Negro, no matter how small the percentage of Negro blood. Someone part Indian and part Negro was also was to be listed as Negro, unless the Indian blood predominated, and the person was generally accepted as an Indian in the community. A person of mixed white and Indian blood was to be returned as an Indian, except where the percentage of Indian blood was very small, or where he or she was regarded as white in the community. For persons reported as American Indian in column 12, color or race, columns 19 and 20, were to be used to indicate the degree of Indian blood in the tribe instead of the birthplace of father and mother. In order to separate figures from Mexicans, it was decided that all persons born in Mexico or having parents born in Mexico who were not definitely white, Negro, Indian, Chinese, or Japanese would be returned as Mexicans. So they had a separate category for Mexicans. At the time, they did not have a Latino or Hispanic category for just to lump all, people of Iberian Peninsula descent into. So what I did not cover is some other groups, which we will go into some other details. I believe his name was George. Not sure if it's George Brawley. Can't remember what his name was. I think I'll just put it in and see. A short history of the American Negro. Benjamin Brawley. It wasn't George Brawley, it's Benjamin Brawley. Let's see if I can remember what. Let's see. Is this it? I don't remember what. Wait, hold on. I think I can find it. No, not George Brawley. It's Benjamin. I was trying to figure out which. I don't know what to click on. Let's see. So I just have to find the right keyword. GER. Heritage History. Here we go. heritagehistory.com. Okay, beginnings of slavery in the colonies. The word Negro is the modern Spanish and Portuguese form of the Latin adjective niger, or Niger, or Niger, meaning black. As commonly used, the word is made to apply to any and all of the black and dark brown races of Africa. Such a usage is not strictly correct, the term having both a narrower and a wider significance than this would imply. In Africa, the real Negroes occupy only a relatively small part of the continent we saw on the map, while outside of Africa, on the islands of the Pacific Ocean, there is a branch of the Nigerian race of people, only less important than the main branch of Negroes in Africa. So it says African slave coast. The Negroes who came to America as slaves were by no means all of exactly the same race, stock, and language. Plantations frequently exhibited a variety of customs, and sometimes traditional enemies became brothers in servitude. The center of the colonial slave trade was the African coast for about 200 miles east of the Great Niger River. From this comparatively small region came as many slaves as from all of the rest of Africa together. A number of those who came were of entirely different race stock from the Negroes. Some were Moors, and a very few were Malays from Madagascar. Such wide differences in race and tribal origin account for the very marked distinctions of form and feature to be observed today in Americans of unmixed African descent. So, Madagascar have Malagasy. So these are people who are descended from both Bantu and people from Malaysia.